Hello, everyone. Uh, my talk will be about fonts and about web performance and how these things are coupled together. So be prepared and focused because it will be about milliseconds. But before I start, I need some insight from my audience. So please raise your hand who linked some web fonts to site this year. Okay. And who linked there more than one family or style? Okay, cool. And because of you guys, I'm here. So thank you for this opportunity, and let's move. I've been testing sites for 2 years now for our PageSpeed clients. I can see on every web some issue, small or big, connected with fonts or their loading, and I asked myself, why? Why we have so many issues with that? And then I realized that everything about font is hard, from the creation over licensing to usage. It's quite a heavy topic. And then we have or designer has, endless creativity, which is changing every day, because we like things smooth and nice. And also, font is somehow visually critical for our brand or design communication. And when we mix these things together, we have big topic what we need to solve, and we want font on our site, some custom font. And on the other hand, we have Core Web Vitals, which are so strict, but I would say they do right job. But I'm not going to dive to their specification because you probably heard about the many, but I need here highlight the metrics and their good limits, what we need to fulfill when we want fast site. So for largest contentful pane, we have 2.5 seconds. For first input delay, we have 100 milliseconds, and for cumulative layout shift, we have only 0.1 score. And I would like to show you how font can negatively affect them one by one. So let's start with largest contentful paint. There is probably more examples, but I chose the most simplest one, where your LCP element is a text node, like you can see on the right, and content is invisible during your web font loading. You will delay your LCP metric, so the result will look like this for the user. You have something rendered, and when font is loaded, text come visible. And in the higher detail, in Chrome DevTools, in this performance tab, it's a little bit heavy, but I will show you. We have fired this metric, LCP, and you can see that it's fired after font is loaded. And when I highlight the time or timestamp of this metric, you can see that we are over the limit just by this font. First input delay is less common to ruin this metric because you must fulfill some conditions, but it will show you how font is connected to the page rendering. It's not only about some visual thing. So when your DOM is bigger or device is slower, or let's say normal, not some high-end, or in some combination of this, your font, when it's applied, can cause a long task. And when the user won't interact with your site in this long task, browser will delay input until this task ends. So again, in higher detail, you can see we have task here when font is loaded. And again, when I highlight the total time of this metric, you can see we are over the limit again. So again, it's easy. And CLS, I think that is opposite to first input delay because it's quite usual to ruin this metric. It's only about the sizes. So when your web font has different dimensions than your fallback, browser will calculate again positions or size of many elements, and then the content will move. And again, in the higher detail, in the timeline, you can see our big shift, which happen when font is loaded. And again, when I highlight the metric and the score, you can see we are over the limit again. It's not too much, but it is. And I would like to show you how can improve this and how win some time for other things, because this is only the font and we have more resources there. But I need to say here something before I move far. The best font, or best custom font is that which is never loaded. So please keep this in your mind and stay low as possible with your count of font files. Every font gives some overhead to your browser. And I will go through these recommendations, what you should put to your practice. But before you start, please measure your current state in the timeline. It's the best. And compare the results, because you can definitely break other things when you do it without this. So first, a little bit controversial, let's say. Try to not use font services. And why? They will be always slower than you. They will give you font files from different domains, so it cause some connection overhead and some round trip. They will delay the file. They also give you some other resources like CSS and JavaScript, which you need to parse and run in your browser. And everything is out of your control, so you must rely that they do everything right. I mean, like font display rule or subsetting and these things. And I have proof they don't. This is a site where Typekit is used, and you can see really big space between our main CSS, which is on the top, and the first page render. And when you look a little bit down, there is another Typekit resource which blocking our page rendering. And this space is half a second only for this one resource. And why is that? When we look inside our first Typekit resource, you have here import CSS rule, which is blocking by default, by design. Browser needs download this resource before it runs. And after that, the browser can continue to rendering your site. But there is one more joke. They give you this Typekit CSS from the other domain, so you have another connection round trip there. So my recommendation, try to not use them, but you probably must, because some license problem. So I have for you partial solution how to solve this, but self-hosted font will be when you know how to optimize them, always faster. So what you can do that, you can pre-connect their upcoming domains, and you can make their other resources asynchronous. And same principle can be used for almost every service. There is also a solution for Google Fonts. And when you do it right, you can see that space is eliminated. And down is our Typekit file, which is not blocking now. So page is faster. Second thing, group your fonts pre-rendering. And what does this mean? Every font which come to your browser must be applied to the document. You saw it in my first input delay slide that it takes some time. And when you have more web fonts in your site, browser will add them to the document one by one. So you will have some overhead. As you can see here, first font is loaded, and then we have task here. Second font is loaded. Again, other task render your page. And this second task is unnecessary. We can resolve this. How? We can use this CSS font loading API, which is JavaScript API, and we can programmatically create our font faces rules and control them by JavaScript and group them, their loading by promise, and when they are loaded, we can apply them to document at once. The support is quite good. It's in all browsers now, and as you can see, when we do it, again we eliminate the second task. We have only one here. So some other milliseconds for us. Third, style your fallback properly. What does this mean? You probably know from the past this font style matcher, which is a tool where you can adjust some CSS rules and find some good dimension for your fallback font. And when you do it right, you can find same dimensions like your upcoming web font. Today we have native option how we can do that, and that is font descriptors. We can use or create font family, new font family like fallback, and take some local font like here, Arial bold, and adjust their sizing or their behavior by some descriptors. Like here, I adjust the size, and also accent override is moving the main line of the font top and down. And when you do it, you can find some dimension where is your fallback same like your font, and you will reserve your space on the page. It ends with 0 shifts. Again, the support is quite good. We are waiting only on Safari now, so you can use it. Fourth is optimize fonts with subsetting, and this is a little bit harder thing. I will show you simple principle how you can do that. We can optimize fonts with reduction of the characters from them. And before we start, we need somehow analyze what we have inside the font. And I am using this online tool. There is many tools, but I like this because they have food on the background, so probably I have some connection with that. But when you drop a font here, you can see how many characters and glyphs you have inside, and also how many languages this font supports. And when you scroll a little bit down, there is a character map where you can find visually which characters you have inside, and you probably find something what is not used on your site. And down, you can see Unicode key, which is important now because we will use this for characters elimination from our file. And we will use these two tools for that, glyphhanger and font tools. Glyphhanger is npm package. It can be globally installed, and it's a tool which can find these Unicode keys inside some source. And source can be text document, can be HTML local file, or some remote site. So it's quite good. And it ends with print in your console. and you will get a Unicode range of your used characters. And Font Tools is Python tool. It is a little bit harder to install it, but not impossible. It's from Google, so it's a good tool. They are using it also for Google Fonts, so it's not some proprietary tool. And inside is tool PyFT subset, which we will use for our characters elimination. And when we combine these two commands together, as you can see on the screenshot, I call glyph on remote site, which is online. And the glyph reads the text from this site, from the code, and gives me back whole Unicode range what I am using on my site. And I just copy this to another command, which is PyFT subset, and I call this on my local font. And as you can see, a little bit down, my final font is 3 times smaller. So just by these two commands. If you have site where is only one language, you should definitely do this. Okay, and last thing is about start loading fonts as fast as possible. You probably know how to do that. We have more options here. And the first is common, the link preload can be used for that. And we can prioritize our font resource. Second option is CSS font loading MPI, what you saw a while ago. And third is critical CSS in some combination of asynchronous CSS. And it's a solution what is on the screen. I highlight this here because I like it. We can use it for other things like give something to user really quickly and show some preloader or something about upcoming content. So it can be used for many things. And when browser will read this rule, the font face, and when font is applied on the body, browser will load font immediately. And then if you are lucky, you can and also you optimize your font files. You can load them really quickly, and you can load them before your critical CSS or the main CSS, let's say. And it ends only with one render, so everything is done for the user before he starts to read your page. And that's it from my side. Thanks for your attention.